Order. Madam County Attorney, has the meeting been noticed properly?
Good morning, Amanda Swindle at the County Attorney's Office. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication and it is legally sufficient.
Thank you. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're on to public forum. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak about any item other than what's on today's agenda? Hearing none, we've got the approval of minutes. Are there any questions with the minutes? Do I have a recommendation for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
It's been seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. On the agenda is CPA 2022-00010 and CPA 2022-00011, Danielstown Center CPA map and text amendments. The proposal is to designate the future land use category of the 61.25 plus or minus acre site from general interchange to intensive development and to amend Lee Plan Map 1-C to add 53.13 plus or minus acres of the subject property to the mixed-use overlay. Lee Plan Table 1B will be updated to accommodate future development of the site. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of the Daniels Parkway and I-75 interchange. And is staff or applicant going up first?
The applicant will start the presentations.
Good morning, members of the LPA. For your record, my name is Richard Aiken. I'm an attorney with Henderson Franklin here in Fort Myers, Florida. I'm here representing the applicant this morning on CPA 2022-00010, 10 and 11. We have our project team here with us this morning. We have Chris Moore, who's with Waypoint Residential. He's the developer on the project. Alexis Crespo and Fred Drovlik with RVI Planning are here, and you'll hear from them here in just a minute. Ted Treesh is our transportation consultant. You'll also hear from him. Jackie LaRoque is our PE. You'll hear from her. And then Brown Collins is our project ecologist. You can see the location of the site here outlined in yellow on the slide in front of you. As indicated, it's approximately 61 acres. It's located at the southwest corner of I-75 and Daniels Parkway. It's about 1 mile from the entrance to RSW from the location of the property. There's access to the property currently on Daniels 9300, which is the frontage road along Daniels Parkway. If the zoning is approved, that access along 9300 there, that frontage road would be ingress only at that time. The future Three Oaks extension is currently under construction, and you can see where the alignment for the Three Oaks extension actually bisects the southwestern corner of the project there. You can see the actual alignment. We'll talk a little bit more about the status of that construction. That road, once completed, will create a substantial arterial roadway with frontage and access to the property. As indicated, there's 3 parts to the request here this morning. The first is to amend Lee Plan Map 1A, which is the future land use map, to change the 61 acres from general interchange to intensive development. And the second part is to amend Lee Plan Map 1C, which is the mixed-use overlay, to add 53 acres to the north of Three Oaks Extension into the mixed-use overlay. I was trying to go back here. There we go. So if you look, the part that's going to be added to the mixed-use overlay is that part that's north of the alignment of the Three Oaks Extension. The portion to the south would not be added to the mixed-use overlay. The final part of the amendment that we're asking for here today is a text amendment to Table 1B, which is to allocate 61 acres of residential land uses into District 11, which is Daniels Parkway. I want to talk briefly about the Three Oaks Parkway extension. So this is going to be a major regional arterial, and it will be an I-75 reliever, and it bisects the property. You can see here the Three Oaks extension is shown in blue. The critical segment from the canal down here, the airport canal, all the way to the very western edge of the property, where you see the western edge and the alignment ends right there, is currently under construction. If you've been out there on I-75 recently, you can see that I believe it's Wright Construction is out there currently working on the roadway. It's anticipated that the phase one, which is that portion to the western boundary of the property, will be complete by summer of 2025. Phase two, which is the portion from the western boundary of the property out to Daniels Parkway, is expected to begin in spring of 2025. The county also has all the right-of-way necessary for phase two already acquired. That's hopefully going to be completed as pursuant to the county timeframes by 2027. The phase one portion that bisects the property, all the right-of-way has already been conveyed by the property owner to the county, so that's already been achieved. In addition, the property owner has worked with the county and the road contractor to allow for staging on the property in order to eliminate traffic, get traffic off of Fiddlesticks and some of the other areas. So they've coordinated and cooperated to that extent. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Alexis Crespo so she can walk through the planning overview on the property.
Thank you. Good morning. Alexis Crespo. I'm Vice President of Planning. Richard had touched on this, but this is our existing future land use map as well as our proposed future land use map. So you can see the property is in the purple or general interchange. At current time, we're proposing to bring it into the reddish color, which is intensive development. And you'll note only the north portion to the north of the future Three Oaks will be within the hatched area, which is the proposed mixed-use overlay expansion. So to summarize the amendment, we are, again, trying to move the property into intensive development. This future land use category does not have higher density than general interchange. Both categories have a base density of 14 units per acre. Intensive development does allow for additional bonus densities through the Greater Pine Island TDU program that are not permitted in general interchange. So that's a key difference between the two land use categories. Another key difference is you cannot locate the mixed use overlay in general interchange lands. So in terms of the Greater Pine Island TDUs, we do not intend to use that bonus density. We have a concurrent mixed use plan development zoning on file that caps our density at 20 units per acre, which is lower than what is possible in either category. So we are not proposing this change to get additional density from the future land use category. The change will allow us to incorporate a portion into the mixed-use overlay, and that is really the crux of the map change, which is a little bit unusual, so hopefully that came through in the staff report. The mixed we're going to walk through why this is an appropriate location for that category, and it does afford different development standards that are housed in Chapter 34 and 10 that allow for different parking configurations, reduced buffers between internal compatible uses, and things that will afford the project to be developed in a manner that's appropriate for this location. Richard has introduced the property, the Three Oaks Parkway extension that's going to be bisecting that southwest corner. You can see the property is currently vacant. It's historically been used for agricultural operations. And this is in a very intense, dense area of the county. I'm sure we're all very familiar with Daniels and I-75 interchange. What lines the property to the north along the direct arterial frontage are those commercial retail uses that want to locate where they're adjacent to that pass-by traffic along the roadway. So we have a mix of gas station, fast food, auto uses, car washes, things like that on the south side of the road. And to the north of Daniels are a mix of hotels, also restaurants, goods, services, and those retail type uses. As we move south closer to the property, we do have some vacant lands as well as some warehousing and storage. As you transition south of the property, we have vacant lands adjacent to I-75 that are largely impacted by FDOT stormwater ponds. And then Old Hickory, you can see, is labeled residential development. At the bottom of that screen, we do abut some of their golf course facility, so we have nice separation from the single-family homes within that community. There are representatives here today from the HOA I'm sure you'll hear from. We have worked with them diligently throughout this process and designed the site to really reduce the density and intensity as we move south to Old Hickory to protect their quality of life within the community. And that's another key reason why the mixed-use overlay is not proposed at that southwest corner abutting Old Hickory. As you move to the east, you have a lot of employment-generating uses. You start working into Lee County's trade port future land use category, so that's where you see the FedEx distribution facility and a lot of light flex type warehousing uses that are coming online to provide a great employment base for the county over time. And then, of course, off the screen but further east is RSW, which is also a major node in the immediate area. So a key item to look at that ties both to intensive development, future land use, as well as the mixed-use overlay is infrastructure. This site, based on its location, based on the development around it, is very well served by existing public infrastructure and services. There is capacity to serve the site through Lee County utilities for both potable water and sewer. Very importantly, we are less than a quarter mile from a existing Lee Trans stop that provides service along Daniels Parkway. We're also just over a mile from a fire station that releases EMS services from that station, just further to the west on Daniels. We are within 3.5 miles of Sheriff as well as a major EMS substation in the area. We have letters of availability from solid waste, schools, and clearly the roadway network is expanding in this area to provide additional network relief for I-75 and great access for this site to access the arterial and really regional roadway network. And Ted will touch on some other improvements relating to that roadway in his presentation that will facilitate the project as well. This is a infrastructure map. It's located in our materials. Just pointing out, this locates all of those uses I've just summarized within the 1, 3, and 5 mile radius of the property. So again, very well served. From an environmental standpoint, this is an ideal location to locate additional density and intensity. The hatched area in the middle of the site is an isolated wetland that is currently in the wetlands future land use category. It will remain unimpacted within the wetlands future land use category. So no changes to that 0.8 acre cypress head on the project. You will notice in our materials that there was a bald eagle on the site at one time. Due to storms, I believe hurricanes in the past, that nest has been abandoned for several years, and the applicant has gone back through the ETAC process to resolve that location or nest does not exist any further. Something also unique about the project, I would say, is that we've already obtained our conceptual environmental resource permit from South Florida Water Management District. That is the stormwater and environmental permits required by the state to start the project. The site is consistent with the Lee Plan's directives on where to locate your intensive development future land use category. It specifically says in the policy you want to locate along major arterial roadways where there's available infrastructure and where the land can accommodate the density and intensity due to natural conditions. Based on the information also provided, we're very consistent with the intent for the mixed-use overlay. Location for this flexible overlay that will allow for unique design of the project. We are, again, proximate to transit routes. We will have pedestrian infrastructure to connect to those transit routes, as well as the public infrastructure that's also noted with the intensive development criteria. And lastly, our design does address buffering and compatibility with single-family neighborhoods to our south. Before I hand it over, I do want to touch on, I promised the Old Hickory folks I would document some of the items we have agreed to that more relate to the zoning, but I know the LPA sometimes likes to see the overall plan for the project. We are proposing to convert from CPD to a mixed-use plan development. Currently, the site is approved for 390,000 square feet of commercial, as well as 120 hotel rooms. It's been zoned this way since 2008. So the market has not driven commercial retail type uses to this site historically, largely because of reduced access, and really to do commercial retail properly, you've got to have that pass-by traffic and pass-by access for those users, and we simply don't have it. And that's why I would just anecdotally note that the zoning is proposed to be changed. The mixed-use plan development, this is our master concept plan. This is Daniels to the north. This is Three Oaks Parkway. We are, again, limiting the density of 20 units per acre, 1,234 units. We are also maintaining a commercial component, which we have sensitively located adjacent to I-75 to avoid any commercial interaction with Old Hickory. So this is where our commercial square footage will be, as well as potential hotel. And then we have areas for unique housing along the west side of the site. We will provide buffers in accordance with the Land Development Code, and here where we interface with Old Hickory, this is limited to 35 feet in height. So we've been very careful with building heights here to also ensure compatibility and that they won't really have good visibility of these buildings once constructed. Also, along the southern property line, you'll notice we've sensitively located our lakes in this area to, again, provide separation between our uses and Old Hickory to the south. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ted for transportation.
Good morning, Ted Shreesh with TR Transportation Consultants. As previously indicated, the change in land use as requested doesn't change the transportation impacts as a result of this request. The uses that are permitted in the both land use categories that we're requesting are the same as a result of the request. So there's no difference in terms of the projections of trips that the site could generate based on the land use category that's currently the property is in versus the request that is before you today. There's a number of changes, though, that are occurring and that's going to be occurring that were briefly mentioned. I'll just go through again. The Three Oaks Parkway extension is currently under construction immediately to our south. That project's being done in phases. It was broken into phases for budgetary purposes by Lee County DOT. The first phase brings it up through our project to our border, and the second phase takes it up to the Daniels Parkway intersection. Also includes widening Daniels Parkway through I-75 and to the west through the Appaloosa intersection. As part of the discussions with Lee County DOT throughout this process, the entrance to this project off of Daniels will be restricted to an entrance only due to the constraints at that intersection, that first signalized intersection just to the west of I-75. There's been, just because of the short driveway throat there and the operational issues that exist, DOT and the developer agreed that will be limited to an entrance only, so residents of the multifamily community will be able to enter the project through there, but there will be no exiting traffic permitted from this project to Daniels Parkway from this project in the future. Traffic exiting this project will be directed towards the south to the new Three Oaks Parkway corridor. So this is just a snippet of the aerial photograph that shows the Three Oaks Parkway extension as it comes up to the Daniels Parkway corridor, how Fiddlesticks Parkway will be tying into Three Oaks Parkway. Our project entrance is just off the aerial to the right, where the intersection will be signalized in the future as warrants are met. We've already discussed that with Lee County DOT. Again, the commercial element of the project is located down on Three Oaks Parkway. The delay of the Daniels Parkway widening with Lee County also is in conjunction with the future interchange improvement that FDOT is moving forward with at I-75. That project is moving forward. They just had their first public information meeting last month. That project is now funded and we'll begin construction next year. So there is a number of improvements happening that in the area that are improving the traffic situation in this area. Again, so that concludes my comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentation.
Board? Any questions?
Yep, sorry. Yeah.
Are you stating, or is the developer or landowner stating that construction on this site is going to be contingent upon the Three Oaks completion and potentially Daniels being widened too? There isn't a case where you will be building the development while these roads are still in plan stage and not being under construction. Is that a true statement?
The Three Oaks is under construction and will be under construction. Our project, and others can speak to the construction schedule of our project, but it's not intended that any units will be occupied most likely before the completion of that, at least the completion to the south. We've always planned that at a minimum, if residents are going to be occupied in the first phases of our project, they will be able to access Three Oaks Parkway and go travel to the south to access the Alico corridor at a minimum, and be able to access Fiddlesticks Parkway. We have contingency plans to be able to access Fiddlesticks Parkway, Fiddlesticks Boulevard to our west in an interim basis if the connection, the Phase 2 project isn't completed yet.
You're saying there's no potential of utilizing Indian Pony as an exit?
There is that is a contingent as a temporary basis if Three Oaks to the north is still under construction in the initial phases of our project. If Three Oaks is still under construction and hasn't opened to traffic yet. But we don't anticipate that happening if DOT's project stays on track. But again, we all know construction projects and how they might be delayed if there's another hurricane. But that may delay our project as well if that occurs. So, but there are those contingency plans in place that would allow a temporary connection to be able to access Fiddlesticks Parkway. But the Three Oaks Parkway construction to the south is well underway, and we anticipate that to be open to traffic to be able to at least allow the project trips to access the Alico Road corridor to the south.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you. Jackie?
Good morning, Jackie LaRock, Senior Director at Atwell. Mine should actually be pretty easy because, as Alexis mentioned, we do have an ERP. And so what that means is we have done the work. We've already done the research, we've done the calculations, we've processed the site and designed the site with the Water Management District. We have been working closely with Old Hickory on that, and there are features of our water management system that are enhanced. And so, with that, we still have to go through county development order permitting, but we have done that first step. The first challenging step is the water management permit, and that is complete.
All right. Again, Alexis Crespo. I'm going to close this out with some discussion on lead plan consistency and a little bit on our community outreach, which I've touched on, so I'll get through this quickly, considering we've got folks looking to speak. But I've discussed at length that the proposal and the site location, the infrastructure, access on major arterial roadways makes this an appropriate location for the intensive development future land use category as opposed to general interchange, which is more for your kind of retail vehicle pass-by trips that are fronting along Daniels. We are consistent with the mixed-use overlay criteria from the accessibility to transit, pedestrian infrastructure, sensitive site design related to the single-family uses and available infrastructure. Something to note, the yellow arrows, this is a busy slide, but this shows your mixed-use overlays generally in red, and they're located at major intersections. I'll use to point over here. Along the Daniels corridor, you've got it at really all of your major intersections, 41, Plantation, as you move westbound. So this is, again, a logical location based upon the existing nodes of mixed-use activity centers along Daniels, and a real opportunity to put density near transit and get people able to go to nearby employment through other means other than vehicles. As outlined in your staff report, we're in agreement with staff. We are consistent with the entirety of the Lee Plan, including goals, objective policies related to development timing, compatibility with adjacent properties, infrastructure availability, stormwater design, and water quality. Our application materials also address consistency with the state comprehensive plan as required. This hits on several of those policies within that document, including maximizing the investment in public infrastructure by adding density and intensity where appropriate, which in turn mitigates urban sprawl and allows us to locate new areas for growth in the urbanized centers of the county. As noted, we have met at length with Old Hickory, understanding they are, a unique, long-standing golf course residential community located to our south, so it was clearly important to engage with them. So there's been several meetings over the course of the project. We agreed to relocate commercial uses away from that shared property line. We agreed to limit building height to 35 feet along our shared property line, and then also met with them at length over stormwater management permitting. So with that, we do have staff recommendation of approval, and we are submitting this as consistent with your comprehensive plan, as well as the Florida statutes and Florida comprehensive plan. And we would respectfully request your recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Questions of the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for bringing up the mixed-use overlay map. I thought that was really interesting to see how many other intersections do have a lot of that overlay, but this intersection doesn't. I thought that was really, really telling. The question I had was about the fire service. I noticed in the staff report that it said that South Trails might be challenged, and you were working to mitigate that. How are you working to mitigate that problem?
Richard, do you want to respond to this one? Thank you. I'll have Richard answer that. Thank you.
So, yeah, the original letter of availability from the fire indicated that they would be challenged to provide service. In further discussions with the fire department, what we've come to is that they will be able to provide service. They're just looking for another location to have a station. Certainly, as we go and continue through the zoning process, we're working to see if we can do something to help them with service. There is a fire station that is located just down Daniels Parkway, not far away from the project. There's also, as some of you may know, there's an existing fire station right there off the Daniels 9300 frontage road that has been abandoned for some time. That exists right there. I'm not sure if the fire station, I don't believe they have any plans right now to reoccupy that, but that does exist there. And as indicated, our proposed zoning condition, which I understand is in front of you today, but would limit us to having no egress there, only ingress. So we're working with the fire station and the fire department to solve that issue, although they have indicated that they do have capacity. They're just looking for another fire station location in the area.
The term challenge just seems like an odd term. Either they can or they cannot. And if they're challenged, what about everybody else down Fiddlesticks Boulevard to the south? It just seems odd. It seems like a question to the commissioners or to their union and not to you. Challenge just seemed like an odd term.
It is quite a little bit odd. I've never seen that come up before in one of these. I've never seen them say challenged before. So I think we kind of just view it as an opportunity to engage with them to see what we can do to help them throughout the process.
Anything else?
That's all, thank you.
Your application called off that you had where's your stormwater discharge location? It said to the south. It said that it's been accommodated in the future. It's a capped pipe, and I didn't understand what capped pipe meant.
Well, let me ask Jackie to come up here and talk about that so I don't say something wrong on stormwater management.
So the stormwater outfall does go through Old Hickory. There's an existing pipe through their golf maintenance that's stubbed out, and it's blocked right now, so we're gonna take that out, connect to it, and then our stormwater will go through their system at a controlled rate.
You're saying that it was capped because it was intended for that use, and that use hasn't started.
Correct.
Going, you will uncap it.
Yep.
I would believe the piping and downstream infrastructure is sized for the capacity of the site.
Correct. Yep. If you pull the Old Hickory ERP, it was always intended for this property to go through their stormwater system. And again, we put a control structure in so that our discharge is very low, and that's what their system was sized for.
Can someone discuss or describe the type of buffering you're talking about on the common property line?
Yes, the south property line is actually, there's intervening Indian Pony right-of-way, so it is a 15-foot wide type D buffer, which will include trees as well as a hedgerow. And then in other locations, we actually have lake abutting the southern property line.
Saying it's county standard dependent on your use.
Correct.
On the map, you showed the zoning plan, which is enjoyable to us to be able to see what your future intention is. Where's your highest building planned on the site that you pointed?
The tallest building will be located adjacent to I-75 and closest to Daniels as well, in the far northeast limits of the site. And this is the area limited to 35 feet.
Right. But the tallest building was discussed in here as a potential, I think it was 9 stories?
We are seeking 90 feet of maximum height. 90 feet, yes.
See, that's how rumors go. And that's in that location.
It would be in this location, yes.
And the tallest building closest to the abutting property to your south, height is restricted to what?
I can't read those numbers, so let me.
I read it, I just want to hear it.
This would be 60 feet, but now we've got Three Oaks intervening with 2 different, or maybe 4 different buffer areas and several hundred feet. So that would be a 60-foot tall building. And then these are 45, the office or commercial will be 45 feet in height. So that will be the tallest and the farthest away.
And the L shape next to the common property line is about 35 feet.
Correct, 35 feet maximum height.
And you go to the aerial, in the application information, it stated 600 feet is the distance between what you're building to the closest house. So what would that be?
So that would be that L shape is approximately here, and then this would be the closest residence,
That
approximately.
portion of Indian Pony Drive that's in an easement on your property that'll be maintained.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, anybody else? Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Joe Saraceno from the Planning Section, introducing Daniels Town Square CPA, CPA 2022-00010, and CPA 2022-00011, privately initiated map text amendments. The applicant was very thorough, so I'm just going to go over some review of the basics of what we're looking at here today. The map amendment is requested to redesignate approximately 61.25 acres from general interchange to intensive development. It's general interchange and wetlands to intensive development wetlands, be wetlands before and after on the property, and to add the northern portion of the property into map 1C. It's approximately 53.13 acres into the mixed use overlay. The text amendment portion is to amend table 1B to maintain internal consistency with the LEA plan. And these amendments allow the development of a mixed-use community under the mixed-use overlay standards. The existing future land use map is shown on the left, with the proposed future land use map shown on the right. This is at the, as you know, southwest corner between Daniels Parkway and I-75. Consistent with Objective 2.2, public facilities are available. Consistent with Goal 5, these amendments promote a variety of neighborhood types that are unique to the area. And with the future extension of Three Oaks Parkway, the focal point of the site changes from being focused on Daniels Parkway serving I-75 to being better suited to serve the local so that's more consistent with the intensive development future land use category. Policy 1.3.2 of the general interchange talks about these being prime locations to serve the traveling public, with the location and its access to Daniels Parkway, it's not quite at that same level as it was when it was originally designated. And the changes to Table 1B to accommodate residential development in the intensive development future land use category within the Daniels Parkway Planning District is consistent with Policy 1.6.5. Moving to the mixed-use overlay, this amendment is consistent with Policy 11.2.1. It's within the extended pedestrian shed of a fixed-route transit corridor of Lee-Tran. There are pedestrian and automobile connections that can be made to adjacent existing commercial uses, undeveloped uses, and within the internal flow of the site with the mixture of uses on site. Public services are available to serve the subject property, and adequate buffering is available between the subject property and the adjacent single-family neighborhood by leaving that separation between the northern portion of the property and the southern portion of the property and the single-family golf course neighborhood below. To conclude, the changes in the surrounding area support the proposed future land use map amendment. The proposed development supports a diverse housing option. This location is consistent with Policy 11.2.1. Public services are available, and staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners transmit the proposed amendments as shown in Attachment 1.
Questions from the board?
General question. This actually might be for the applicant. I was just curious for the ERP. Do you have the same amount of wetland impacts as the previously approved ERP, or did that increase, stay the same, go down?
Mr. Chair, if you recognize the applicant to answer that.
It's the same.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Last question. On the Flux map, there's a large area of 1.87 acres that's marked as freshwater marshes, and it could be, but visually it looks like disturbed lands. I just wanted to make sure that that was accurate, and just from looking at the aerial, that's the one thing I just was curious about, if somebody could confirm for me.
Applicant?
All right, so yeah, I believe the Flux map, the Flux map is accurate, all right? And yeah, some of it is largely disturbed, right? So that area that is freshwater is largely disturbed, but the Flux map is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Justin?
Nothing.
When looking at the information that the applicant provided, as far as letters from the county on availability, I just noticed that some of the letters are dated 2022, which is a long way from where we are today. And I'm sure everything is fine and capacities are fine, but would not the applicant have to follow through the process, not here, but going forward, to get updated letters on availability of infrastructure?
Yeah, they'll be reevaluated at every step of the process. So during the zoning, I think they've already provided letters, again, for the zoning, but then with the development order process, they'll once again reevaluate and make sure that capacity is available. So with the letters not really having expiration dates and the concerns not being as strong with the availability of public facilities with the letters, it was fine to continue letting them through the process so that they could reevaluate what capacity they have once they actually start putting shovels in the ground.
Again, in the information provided to us, I see one location where it says reuse lines are unavailable, or reuse is unavailable. In another location, I see that it is available, which, I mean, is it available?
Yeah, it is not available.
Okay.
I said not available, right? Okay, cool. I just couldn't remember.
Thank you.
Yes. All right.
Anybody?
Thank you.
Madam County Attorney, because I'm a newbie, do we open it up to the public now? Correct. Any questions? I have your cards. Thomas Samuels? Come on, please.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity of addressing you. I'm here representing the interests of the Old Hickory Golf and Country Club. and its 1,000-plus resident members, which, as you know, live immediately adjacent to the development to the.
Could you please just speak up a little bit and pull the mic closer to you?
We also represent, I'm a member of an ad hoc committee that was established by the master board at Old Hickory for the purpose of interacting with the developer and the county as the development plan was advanced over time. And we've been in place for more than a year, going on 2, as this development has evolved. We also represent the interests of the adjacent clubs that surround us. That includes Fiddlesticks Country Club, Legends Golf Country Club, Cypress Preserve, and Daniels Villas. So a rather large community immediately surrounding the development. The purpose of our coming to this meeting is to not object to the amendments that are being requested. And I want to stress that as a member of this ad hoc committee and as a member of the master board, I've met with Lee County Community Development Zoning Section to better understand the county's objectives and review their process. Our committee has provided commentary on virtually all the insufficiency letters provided to the developer. And we've also met with and had conference calls with both the initial developer, the Myers Group, and the current developer, Waypoint Residential. And we believe the Daniels Town Square plan has evolved in a positive direction since the original filing, which we had serious objections to. First of all, and before I conclude my remarks, we would like to commend and thank the zoning section for their time and assistance in helping us understand the Lee County planning process. The section was very effective in communicating with us. We would also like to commend and thank Waypoint for their time and assistance to help us understand Waypoint's objectives and their development approach, and to have them hear about our objectives and concerns. I believe we understand the nature and reasons for the proposed comprehensive plan amendment and the verbiage with respect to the mixed-use overlay. Specifically, our group does not object to the CPA plan amendment and the overlay verbiage, as Waypoint has exhibited initial progress in addressing our objectives. Our position relies upon Waypoint continuing to address our group's future planning concerns, and there really remain 4 of them that they have been working on as we went along. The first is to commit to keeping the structures below sight lines, which they provided. The second is to continue to study ways to mitigate flooding on our property, which is already occurring, including the potential to raise the stormwater mitigation standard from the 25-year storm to a 100-year storm level. And the third one is to continue to study the potential for keeping all vertical development north of the future Three Oaks Parkway on their property. And 4 is to continue to study future traffic circulation issues, which exist, as we know, around Daniels and Fiddlesticks. So our support is really contingent on their continuing to do these things, which they've been very effective at so far. Thank you for your time. That concludes my statements.
Thank you for participating.
Mr. Chair, we may want to remind the speakers of the time limit and I believe Janet's going to set a 3-minute timer when the speaker starts, so when the timer goes off, your time will be done. Thank you.
So you heard her. Lynn Sullivan?
Lynn Sullivan, resident at Somerset at the Plantation and prior HOA president there. My take is a little bit different from the man that just spoke. Our objections are primarily based on the tremendous amount of residential building that has been approved, is being approved, and already built in our area, along with the rising taxes that will be due to the infrastructure needed for this intensive residential building. I have read the 420 pages of this application, but disagree with many of the conclusions based upon the experience of those of us that actually live in this area. First, the area of the tree-lined corridor that crosses Daniels has an overabundance of residential property, both owned and leased, many of which are far from full capacity. Within a 4-mile radius of this proposed project, the residential communities and apartment complexes have over 12,000 plus units. Somerset 954, Bridgetown 989, Legacy 502, Town Tree Line 396, Pelican 2,498. I could go on, but those are just some of them. Farther west on Daniels, within a short mile, is Springs at Daniels, Parkway Apartments, Legends, Fiddlesticks, Old Hickory. The application certainly plays down the impact that adding 1,251 doors to an already crowded field will add. Do we really need this addition of residents when we have 12,000 plus units already in this small area? Second, the application seeks to increase the proposed hotel room count. In a 1-mile radius, we already have La Quinta, Marriott, Baymont, Travelodge, Hampton, Quality Suites, etc., etc. Third, the proposal takes away most of the commercial retail space and office space that was originally proposed, replacing it with several thousand additional people and cars. This area needs the retail business. We need restaurants. We need office space to accommodate the 12,000 plus units already within these square miles. Fourth, I've reviewed your traffic impact statement and have found it hard to believe that this project will not impact the traffic. Yes, you're planning ingress on Daniels, but Daniels, as you noted, is one of the main thoroughfares. That means that everybody's going to move down Fiddlesticks and off onto Daniels. If I could just, I'll go with just my final word. If this amendment proceeds, will Lee County ensure that the developer be required to pay full impact fee expenses for the infrastructure required for this project and not put it on the backs of the current residents? Thank you.
Please. Bill Tolk. No comment. David Watson. Already covered. James McGeed. No comment. Jim Kabalski. Yeah, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Jacobowski. I live in Reflection Isles. I have a couple questions in regards to this issue. The first one is the sound system here is terrible. I'm sitting back there and I'm having a hard time listening to people who are knowledgeable, who's giving me some information. This is not a criticism, this is a constructive thing. I would like to hear more sound back there.
Appreciate the comment, but please get into what your question is because you're on the timer.
But anyhow, one of my questions is that the connection from Three Oaks into we saw a highway. Is that highway 2 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes? Don't know.
We'll bring it up to staff.
The other question I have is in regards to the bike path that goes down Fiddlesticks. Is that still going to be on the west side, or is that going to be going back and forth? I don't know that. The other question I have is in regards to the size of the hotel. The 200-room hotel, how many floors is that going to be? There's a height restriction, but I don't know what the height restriction is. Is that like 2 levels, 3 levels, 4 levels to support 200 rooms? There's also another, in the paper, they also talked about revising the hotel to be a 1,000-room hotel. I don't know how many floors that's going to be, but I saw the restriction in regards to the height, and I have no idea how tall that is going to be. So, anyhow, in conclusion, thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure talking to all of you. Goodbye.
Applicant, do you want to handle any of these questions?
We may want to call for public comment just in case anyone didn't turn in a card.
Yeah.
Any other public comment other than those that turned in cards? Please.
Yeah, Ann Midgard. Hi, I live in Fiddlesticks. I just learned about this meeting last night about 10, so I did not have a chance to write up all kinds of information. I've lived in Fiddlesticks 19 years, and I've seen the traffic going from Fiddlesticks getting down to 41 in 15, 20 minutes to taking 30, 40, 50 minutes. How many of you people use Daniels to get anywhere during your everyday work life? You do? If you lived in Gateway, if you live any of these areas, Lehigh Acres, and you need to transit back and forth east-west, it has become a parking lot. That is the most constricted, crowded intersection in almost all of Lee County. We have to wait during seasons sometimes 3 and 4 different light changes just to get onto Daniels, and half the time when you get up there, the whole intersection is blocked because all the cars are trying to get onto I-75. So I'm just saying, Fiddlesticks has 577 doors. Some of my friends who all have kids are taking 45 minutes to an hour to get their kids to and from schools. Got a quick few minutes. Some people that have children have 2 and 3 cars. So you're adding 1,234 doors on the corner of one of the busiest intersections of the entire Lee County, and you're going to shove them all down on Fiddlesticks Boulevard, which is now Fiddlesticks Boulevard, which is going to become Three Oaks Parkway. If they're 1,234 and everybody has 2 cars, that's almost 2,500 cars on that one road. This is a disaster. And I just want to say, from people who have lived here for 19 years and all this construction that's going on, you're killing us. No one's going to want to leave their home. And that's not good for commercial development either. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would care to speak? Please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diego Menendez. Like the lady back there, I didn't hear about this until last night. And for the first time, I'm a relatively new resident of Fiddlesticks. I moved into the area about a year and a half ago. The address that was given to me also was wrong. They gave me 2nd Avenue. So that's why I was late here, because where I went at 2nd Avenue wasn't it. But I concur with my resident, which I've never met, but I'll meet her later with her comments. Also, and I'm still working. I know there's a lot of snowbirds that come here into my neighborhood, but I don't. I still work for a living, and I can tell you that I agree with her. Getting in and out of Daniels Parkway is an absolute nightmare, especially during snowbirds when they come down. There was another lady that I did not understand her last name, but she was talking about the implications of taxes. She's from another neighborhood and what that is for all of the residents here. I pay a boatload of taxes as it is already. I don't need any more. I really don't see the reason for turning, and I read this very briefly of somebody that sent me a text, sent it to my wife actually. I don't understand about changing this from a zoning to commercial to now so much residential. We got so much residential in this area already. Why do we need even more? Other than the developer, no disrespect, wanting to make more money and converting this for more housing and all that stuff. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, I would have to educate myself a little bit more about what all of this is, because this is the very first time that I heard anything about this, and I decided to, show up here this morning before I have to go to work to find out a little bit more information, because I don't know how you all communicate with the residents. But I'm not a big proponent of what's going on here, especially changing the zoning as well. So with that, I'll leave it to you, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Again, is there anybody else? I'll close the public comment. Board, any questions?
Is applicant doing a rebuttal?
Thank you. Audience, I appreciate your patience. I'm the kid that sat in the back of the room during school and was never called on. So I'm learning. Please.
All right. Good morning again, Richard Aiken. I thank you for the opportunity to just briefly address some of the public comment that we heard. So first of all, we heard a little bit about questions about traffic, and I just want to reiterate once again that the existing, both the zoning and the plan or the future land use that's on the property now, when the traffic analysis is done, there's really no change, right? So you have to understand that we currently have a plan amendment and a zoning on the property that allows for certain development rights thereon, and that generates a certain amount of traffic, and that could be built today if there's demand for it, regardless of whether we make this change or not. And so the traffic is really no difference in that regard. I also want to point out that I do think that actually this change in some ways is an improvement in the traffic sense, and that is because under the existing zoning that sits on the property today, this Daniels 9300 access road out here out front, there is an allowed egress at the moment under the existing zoning for traffic to come out the northern end of the property and onto the 9300. Now there's a limit as to how many trips, all right? But under the proposed zoning, and I know we're not here on a zoning, but you're allowed to consider what's there under the Florida statutes as well, we are proposing to limit it to no egress out here onto Daniels 9300. In addition, the Three Oaks extension here, I think it's reasonable to anticipate will provide some traffic relief for residents in the area because it will allow traffic to go south down to Alico Road into some of the other major commercial corridors and industrial corridors and solve some of those issues. There were some questions, I heard questions about impact fees. So the developer will have to pay impact fees, which is required under the Lee County Land Development Code and Administrative Code, and they will be paid. And that will pay for certain things within the county, fire, EMS, schools, things of that nature. That's a requirement. There were some questions about increased taxes. All I can say is this, that as this property gets developed, it increases the taxable base of this property, which requires this property owner, this developer, to pay additional taxes to the county to pay for many of the things that residents may have concerns about. So the development only leads to additional taxes paid by this property owner as time moves on. I believe that I have addressed, or at least I've tried to address most of the questions that came up in public comment. If there are any other questions of the LPA members, things that have not been answered, we will be happy to do so.
One of the questions was the height on the hotel, and that was discussed.
Yes, sir.
Confirm.
Yeah, so I can confirm that, and thank you for bringing that up. So the size of the hotel is 5 stories, or 60 feet is the maximum. And again, that's located on the opposite side of the Three Oaks extension from where Old Hickory is, so it would be over here in this area. And the mention of 1,000, some issue of, I don't know where that came from. There is no request to do that. I can only speculate.
That resident also asked about the number of lanes, whether you can answer it or not.
I can. Thank you for that. 4 lanes. Three Oaks extension will be 4 lanes. And the bike path down Fiddlesticks I've looked at the plans and I don't see any indication that that's going to be changed. The existing bike path that goes down, I believe it's the westerly side of Fiddlesticks Boulevard in front of Legends. I don't believe there's any plan to change that. I do think there's a bike path that will be on the new Three Oaks extension as well. That'll be separate and distinct from what's there today.
Do we know the expansion of Daniels Parkway as well? A lot of them had expressed concerns about that area between Daniels and, traveling west from Gateway.
So maybe Ted could help me answer that. I do know that the planned widening of Daniels that is part of the last phase of Three Oaks is planned to, I think, be completed in 2027. That's the hope. Is that right? Yeah. As far as
8 lanes. Okay.
8 lanes.
Does that look a lot like what we are seeing happen on Colonial right now? Is that the plan?
Yes. Mr. Trish is saying yes.
I mean, just out of curiosity, are they talking about doing a reverse diamond or whatever it was called up on Colonial?
I'll ask Ted to come up and make sure we get this right.
Everywhere.
Yes, Ted Trish with TR Transportation. The public meeting FDOT had last month, the concept at Daniels is the diverging diamond, which is currently under construction at Colonial. And then Lee DOT will then pick up that widening of Daniels and go with 8 lanes on Daniels Parkway west through the Appaloosa Road intersection.
I mean, as all of us being Lee County residents, roads down here are difficult. They're tough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good? We're good. I did not hear that question. We can go to the board now?
Yes.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah,
Are we open for discussion right now?
we're open for discussion.
Yes, you're in the discussion portion.
I want to make a comment on the mixed use and the traffic problems. I live in Cape Coral, so I am not traveling Daniels. The midpoint bridges, those are our choke points. What I will say, a big difference between what Cape Coral has and what Lehigh has are the goods and services that we have in Cape Coral. Everyone in Lehigh has to leave every single morning to go to work. In Cape Coral, some people still remain there, so I don't think our bridges get as busy. This, as a mixed-use development, is bringing residential right next to their jobs, potentially. So the previous CPD, without residential uses in there, you wouldn't have that internal capture. So while you hear right now that a bunch of units are being added to it, actually, because of the internal capture, it's helping traffic for the entire region to make trips shorter throughout all of Lee County. And you see these mixed-use nodes going in. Alexis brought up a very good slide. Other intersections have these mixed-use nodes, and that really helps for traffic. So I think it'll be a little bit of growing pains in this area, the way that we have seen in Colonial with the diverging diamond. It takes a while. But hopefully that will be improved. I think Three Oaks coming through here is going to change this quite a bit, and your access will change to Daniels as this goes along. But I am in support of nearly any mixed-use overlay project. I think it's really good for the county, and I am in support of this project.
I think a lot of the issues that the residents, in fact, all of us in Lee County have had in this area is in regards to traffic. And fortunately, the board has been very active in trying to take care of a lot of traffic issues throughout the county, and specifically here on Daniels. Bringing Three Oaks in took a long time to get done, but there were issues with trying to get it done. One of them was acquiring the right-of-way, and that has been achieved. Three Oaks is already under construction. It has stated the completion, at least to the applicant's westerly property line, will be done summer of '25, and that will be followed up with the continuing construction of Three Oaks Parkway all the way to Daniels. So now all of the residents will take advantage of that road work, and it's a 4-lane highway that connects now Daniels all the way to Alico. In addition to that, you've got the improvements now just being discussed about Daniels Parkway, going from whatever the heck it is today to possibly 10 lanes? Ted?
8 lanes.
8 lanes, thank you. And in addition to that, you've got FDOT coming in and saying we need I-75 widened, and that's under planning and design right now. So I think whether this project was going in or not, your traffic issues are being addressed and will only get better. And speaking about what's happening, the applicant or that property is already zoned for the amount of density what they're asking for. In fact, as stated in their presentation, they're looking to install less than what's currently achievable. Does anybody else on the board have comments or questions?
I would just comment that it seems that the gentleman who was representing a multitude of the HOAs there had expressed a desire by the developer to be flexible and to make some adjustments throughout this process. And from his assessment, it seems that there may be some disconnect with some of the other homeowners, but it seems like a lot of that has been lack of actuality. Seems like the biggest concerns were traffic, that there's future planning to address that, and taxes, which would not be an inherent issue for the surrounding residents there. And as we all know, markets dictate product type, and so it seems that inside of the developer's property rights and their ability to address the concerns of the surrounding associations, I'm in favor of the project as well.
Dawn, any comments?
Born and raised in Fort Myers, Florida. I have been on Daniels Parkway almost all of my life, starting from 82 in Daniels all the way up now to Plantation in Daniels. And traffic has always been an issue my whole life. And I think this project will do well with all of the upcoming improvements that we're going to see over the next 5-year span. I think that it's an appropriate location for this.
Madam County Attorney, because we're a limited board this morning, we have 4 voting members. What is the result of a vote? The number of votes for an approval would require what?
We just need a majority vote of
Majority of
the quorum
attending
present, yes.
Of attending members.
Yes, of the quorum present.
Thank you. All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion
A second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion passes. The second item had been pulled from the agenda. Board, is there any questions we have? Make a motion to close.
Make a motion to close.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.